until the day before she announced her charges, meaning her mind had to have been made up. She did no consultation with the police investigators. There had to have been many questions. Just her own charging documents raised many questions.
Now, who are we talking about? We're talking about the child state attorney who was handpicked by the power structure in Baltimore, who is so out of her league that it's apparent to anybody who listens to her. Let's listen to her again and tell me if you think this is the mind and the voice of a competent state attorney. Listen again.
To the youth of this city, I will seek justice on your behalf. This is a moment. This is your moment. Let's ensure that we have peaceful and productive rallies that will develop structural and systemic changes
can't even say the words.
For generations to come. You're at the forefront of this cause. And as young people, our time
the thugs are at the forefront of social justice. So she's one of the mob. She is representing the mob, not justice. You know, justice is supposed to be blind. You know that. You know the famous picture of Lady Justice with a blindfold on, with the scales of justice in her hand? This lady was not blindfolded. No. She blindfolded the cops and marched them off the plank. She made them walk the plank. So I think this prosecutor should be prosecuted for what she did. No matter what happens in that city from now on, I don't really care. Because if you cater to the mobs in Baltimore today and you cater to the Muslims in Texas yesterday, we have nothing left in America. These are the Alamo. These two cases together are like the Alamo in America. Either we fight back or we're finished. We may as well roll over and die. So let's go to the callers now on the Savage Nation. Let's go to Kurt on WBAP Radio in Dallas, Texas. Now on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please, Kurt.
Yeah, Doc Savage. I called about Pam Geller, but a quick comment on Mosby. She's in a lot of trouble. You know, she even filled out the arrest warrants incorrectly, and people got harassed at work. They weren't even that person. She got the middle initials wrong, the ages wrong. So she filled out false arrest warrants. So there's more on that. It's going to flush.
Well, right. She rushed to judgment to crucify the 6 cops, 3 of whom are African-American, by the way.
Right on. Now, Pam Geller, she's a hero in my mind. Bill O'Reilly and Greta are among many other capitulators and appeasers to radical Islam. Geller had her meeting at the Curtis Caldwell Center in Garland because it was a form of counter-protest to a meeting that occurred in January at the same place. It was sponsored by CARE, Muslim Brotherhood, and Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who was a supporter of the 93 World Trade Center bombing. It was a fundraiser for a giant mosque and Sharia law in the Dallas, Texas area. Now we have a Sharia court in Irving, Texas. There you go, Bill O'Reilly. I fleshed out your story for you.
Good for you, Kurt. Well, let me flesh out a novel for you called Countdown to Mecca, which is coming out next week, but you'll get it before everybody else. Thank you for calling. That opens up another line. Let's go to the callers around America and talk about all these topics in a different way than we've been doing so. Let's say in a more generic sense. Lino on KKOH in Reno, Nevada. Lino, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael. Geller basically speaks where our moral leaders have gone silent. For instance, Pope Francis, who prayed in the Blue Mosque in Istanbul in November of this last year, I call it a collaboration. He's collaborating with the Muslims through the medium of dialogue. That's what's happening. I'm a trade.
You got to understand, this Pope is Lenin's Pope. That's what I called him. That's how I define him. The man knows nothing about global warming, and he's now going to go and lecture the world about global warming? As I said before, the man is a leftist plant inside the Catholic Church. It's a shame to listen to him on so many issues. It's frightening. But he's not the issue right now. I wouldn't say that he capitulated to Islam. I would say that the Pope wants peace with Islam, which is a very noble thing for him to want, Lino. On the other hand, I don't believe that you can make peace with terrorists.
I agree with you. Well, but, you know, even before this, we have John Paul II in May of 1999 kissing a Quran at the Qudum Mosque in Iraq.
As I say, these are men of very high stature who want peace on earth, goodwill towards man, and that's their take on it, which is you don't antagonize people of other religions, you work with them. That is their prerogative, and they're right from their perspective and in their position. Pamela Geller is not the Pope, though. Pamela Geller is a provocateur. But she, in America, has a right to be as provocative as some of the filthy, dirty rat comedians that provoke America on a daily basis. You mean the drug addicts and the singers are not provoking America with their filth on a daily basis, hiding behind the First Amendment? No one machine guns them, do they?
That's true. That's true.
Don't the acts of many of these rap artists offend everybody in America? Nobody says they should be killed. Nobody supports anyone who hates them. You just don't buy their filthy records, that's all.
That's true. That's absolutely
all right, well,
true.
of course it's true. But no one said it yet. Well, now you just heard it. So, you listen to some of these filthy comedians. You turn on HBO or Showtime. You never see anyone who's a patriotic individual who happens to be funny on there. Never. Yeah, I'm talking about me. I have a great sense of humor. I could fill an audience with 2,000-3,000 people in a theater in San Francisco and have it filmed. Have you ever seen it on Showtime? No, you have one sick, self-hating comedian, so-called, or comedian, whatever, after another, hating themselves, putting down their own religion, spewing hatred towards Christianity, spewing hatred towards the family, spewing hatred towards straight people. It's offensive, it's disgusting, so you don't watch it. You just scan through the channel. That's how it's done in this multicultural cesspool that we all live in. And if these wonderful visitors from another land can't live in this world, well, the world's not going to change. There's an old adage. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, we are the Romans, and if you don't like it, you go back to the hellhole you came from. It's that simple. 855-400-7282. God, it's 11 minutes to the hour already. I don't know how that happened. I guess time flies when you're having none. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUY-COIN. We're talking about those who would kill free speech because they find certain things that are being said about Islam, in this case, offensive. We're talking about a vicious, politically, let us say, ambitious attorney in Baltimore crucifying 6 police for her own political ends. And if you want to look at free speech for a moment, I'll conclude this hour with the following. There are limits on the First Amendment. The Supreme Court held that fighting words and incitements to specific and imminent violence are not protected. But what are fighting words? Well, let's look at them. As recently as 2011, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that the Westboro Baptist Church had a First Amendment right to picket a military funeral and wave signs that read, "You're going to hell," and "Thank God for dead soldiers." That's because they hated homosexuals. And so the Supreme Court has already ruled on what hate speech is. And the individuals who say that there are limits to the First Amendment are 100% right. But what are the limits? The ones they determine them to be? I would say you should read the Constitution and understand it before you go on CNN and misinterpret it. You can say that hate speech isn't protected, but I'd like you to define what hate speech is. One man's hate speech is another man's something else. Do you remember the left screaming George Bush is a war criminal? That was hate speech, wasn't it? Well, if you were George Bush or a Republican saying George Bush is a war criminal was hate speech. Was it banned? No. And I want to remind you that constitutional speech protections, meaning the First Amendment, wouldn't be strong if they did not include hate speech. Because, as I said to you before, vile, offensive speech is what the First Amendment was written for. Polite speech does not need to be protected by the First Amendment. Do you understand that yet? Well, I hope you do. I hope you've understood me. I'm here for another big hour. Take your calls. I'll talk about my new novel, Countdown to Mecca, which you must buy and you must read.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk. borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Now, the group that did the insulting says it's entitled to profane Mohammed because in the Islamic religion, any kind of depiction of him is a sin. They say they can do that in America because of freedom of speech. Well, that's true. They have the right to do it here. But again, it's stupid. It accomplishes nothing.
It showed us that O'Reilly is the leprechaun. And it showed us that there are people on Fox who are not leprechauns. It also showed us that we're in a war that has been going on for millennia of Muslims against every other country they've ever lived in, where they don't do as they do in Rome, but try to have the Romans do as they do. And today it's cartoons of Muhammad. Tomorrow it's pork in the schools. Then it's church bells or crosses or female genital mutilation. You name it. No, that's not how we behave in a pluralistic society. And again, it's offensive. For sure it's offensive. It would be offensive to draw pictures of Jesus in a derogatory manner, but I don't think Christians would show up with AK-47s and try to execute individuals who would do that. In fact, I know that they wouldn't do that because the left has been defaming Jesus for as long as I can walk. As long as I've been walking, Jesus has been mocked by Hollywood. I can go all the way back to the 60s of movies that were made to defame Jesus. Christians didn't burn the movie theaters down. They tolerated people who were attacking their God, God's son, however you want to put it. And Jews have been subject to ridicule for ever since I've been a child, and they live with it. They just go there on their way, and they use the police to protect them from the more violent extremists in the country, as the Muslims should do. But I don't see a cartoon as being particularly violent, incidentally. I think it's far more violent, for example, to kill your daughter if she marries an infidel, which happens in America on a little too often. I think it's far more violent to conduct female genital mutilation in a bathtub if you've just come here from an African nation and you don't know what civility is than it is to draw a cartoon. But I don't see people breaking in with machine guns to stop people from doing such things, even though it's illegal. So you get the picture. Yeah, there are limits to free speech, as I just said to you. I know what they are. But if you want to go to the Supreme Court, then go to the Supreme Court, because as near as 2011, they upheld the Westboro Baptist Church's right to march with repugnant signs, putting down soldiers at funerals, saying that we got what we deserve because of the homosexuals in America. That's what they were doing. Horrible, disgusting. The guy was a out of control provocateur, whoever he was. I think he died. But again, Christians didn't fight back. Soldiers didn't come out with machine guns. They hated them. But in America, you don't kill people for offending you. That is, unless you want to have a two-tiered system. You know what I'm saying? So that's one topic. The other topic is Baltimore, where the inexperienced, politically aggressive state attorney rushed to judgment, crucified 6 cops, 3 of whom were African-American, on false charges. And we found a tape of a state attorney, a former one, a legitimate one with a real degree from a real school, who says she made every mistake in the book and the case is never going to hold up, number one. But number two, she herself may go to prison or could be arrested or charged with false arrest for what she's done to the 6 police. That was an amazing piece of sound from Paige Kreuter, the former deputy state attorney in Baltimore, who laid out the case for possibly not only investigating, but taking this politically ambitious neophyte called Mosby and charging her for arresting them without probable cause. You hear this? And very serious stuff going on in America today, and we can talk about it. We still have freedom of speech, don't we? Now, some may find talk radio offensive. You know that. Let's go back to the issue of freedom of speech. Many Americans find talk radio offensive. Dianne Feinstein tried to close down talk radio. Nancy Pelosi tried to shut down talk radio. Several Republicans, including Trent, whatever his name was, that guy from Mississippi. I forget his name. Remember him? Trent something or other. I can't even remember his name. Joined the Democrats to stop talk radio with the so-called fairness doctrine because they found our speech to be offensive. There are advertisers who boycott talk shows like mine because they are on the side of the haters. They want to control the dialogue, so they won't advertise on the show. You notice I never have a car company? Most of you drive cars, don't you?